In this lesson, we want to take a look at the settling of the colonies, and the main thing we want to be able to do is identify the reasons each of the 13 colonies was formed. Now, we're not going to go through all 13 of those colonies. We simply are going to look at a representative sample of the colonies and get an idea of why the people came and who came to each colony. So by the time you get finished with this lesson, you should be able to understand who settled each colony, both individuals and groups of people, why they settled the colony, and when they came. The first colony we're going to look at is Virginia because, of course, Virginia was the first English colony to be settled. We're very familiar with Virginia already because we've already looked at Jamestown, why they came, who came, and some of the early failures that Jamestown had. So this one should be fairly easy. Virginia was founded by the Virginia Company. It was a joint stock company whose primary purpose was to create a profit for their investors, and so they came to the New World to create a settlement, hopefully to find gold, because the Spanish are bringing tons of gold out of the New World, and some of the major figures in the founding of Virginia are going to be John Smith and John Rolfe. Now, they did not find gold at Jamestown, and so the Virginia Company continues to look for a profit-making item, and it's when John Rolfe arrives with his tobacco seeds that they finally find some success because they finally have a way to make a profit, and it is a huge profit. Now, Virginia was chartered in 1606, but the year we're going to use for the founding of Virginia is going to be the year that they landed at Jamestown, which is 1607. The next set of colonies that were created by England was Plymouth and the Massachusetts Bay Colony. In the beginning, we're going to need to be able to separate them because they were created by two different groups of people and as two separate colonies. Later, they're going to merge together and Massachusetts Bay is going to take over Plymouth, and then we'll just be referring to them as a Massachusetts colony. So first came Plymouth. The Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth in 1621. They had been being persecuted in England because of their religious beliefs. So the main reason that Plymouth was founded was to give the Pilgrims a safe place to worship as they please, and religious freedom was the main point of creating the colony of Plymouth. A little bit after that, the Puritans arrive in Massachusetts Bay, and they also are going to be coming for religious purposes, but theirs are slightly different because the Puritans in England had been objecting to the Catholic elements of the Church of England. They were trying to purify the Church of England and bring reform to the Church of England. So when they came to America to create their colony, they had a little bit of a different goal. They wanted to create a perfect, pure society for Puritans in the New World to show the world how that can be done. And so John Winthrop here said that they should be as a city on a hill, as a light to show people the way that a Puritan society could be, in the hopes that they could go back to England and continue to reform the Church of England. So again, the Puritans and the Pilgrims both came to the New World for religious reasons, but they were slightly different, and they settled in Plymouth and Massachusetts Bay. So if the Puritans' purpose in founding Massachusetts Bay Colony was to create this perfect Puritan society in the New World, they're not going to be actually very tolerant of any other religious beliefs in their colony, and they're not going to be tolerant of dissent within their own community. And so this is how we end up getting our next colony, Rhode Island, because there are some Puritans in Massachusetts who disagree with the Puritan leadership, and they end up being exiled and kicked out, and they go south and create the colony of Rhode Island. So why was Rhode Island formed? The Puritans in New England kicked out Roger Williams, and also they had some problems with Anne Hutchinson. So both of them went south, created their own colony of Rhode Island, and that was then also created for religious purposes, but they went a step further. Roger Williams believed that there should be a colony where all religions are tolerated, and he definitely believed in the separation of church and state, so he created Rhode Island to be a place where the church and the state would remain separate, and they would be welcoming of all religious beliefs, and not just Anglicans, not just Puritans, not just Christians, but Jewish people, Catholic people, any religious belief would be welcome in the colony of Rhode Island. So to recap, Rhode Island was created by a group of Puritans who were banished from Massachusetts Bay because of their religious beliefs, and they created the colony of Rhode Island, Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson, to be a place where all religions would be tolerated. Moving on to the middle colonies of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Delaware. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was founded by a man named William Penn. Here he is right here. I think he's a teenager in this portrait. And he wanted to create a place that would be a safe place for Quakers, because this is also a religious group that was being persecuted in England because of their religious beliefs differed from those of the Church of England. So another word for a safe place is a haven. Pennsylvania was created to be a haven for Quakers. Not all of the English colonies were founded by the English. I know that's a little bit weird, but they became English colonies later, but there were some, especially the ones in the middle colonies, that were founded by other nations. And one of those colonies is New York. It was originally named New Netherlands because it was founded by the Dutch, and they had created it as a trade outpost. They got in a war with England because, of course, the nations of Europe were constantly at war with each other, and England won. So after that, New York became New York. It was taken over by England and renamed, and they continued to use it as a trade outpost. It was a very successful trade outpost, and it is going to continue to be a big center of trade throughout early American history. Georgia, the last colony, was founded by a group of trustees led by James Oglethorpe. Now, these trustees had an idea. They wanted to basically create Georgia as a social experiment, to be a haven for debtors, to help people who were in debt in England and they'd been imprisoned so they couldn't get out of their situation, and bring them over here to the New World and give them a chance to have a second chance at life. The King of England decided that one of the best ideas for the reason for founding Jamestown was to create a buffer zone to protect the Carolinas from the Spanish down in Florida, and so that was the primary reason for Georgia to be founded. Now, once the trustees came over here and actually created their colony, this idea of having a social experiment of a haven for debtors sort of went out the window, and Georgia became much more about creating a profit for their trustees and for the people who were coming. So Georgia, the final English colony, was founded in 1733 as mainly a buffer zone to protect the Carolinas from the Spanish in Florida and to provide economic benefit for the trustees. So there you go, settling the colonies. Now, the main purpose again of this activity is to make certain that you can identify the reasons that each of the colonies was formed, who came, both individuals and groups, and why they came to each of those colonies. So what we'll be following is a matching activity to help you practice this information and make certain that you know what's going on with the settling of the 13 English colonies.